Record on this computer. Where did my little guy go? Let's put this up here. Okay, hello, welcome everyone. Thank you for being here tonight for my presentation on Kenya Rising. I was so lucky to go to Kenya recently at the beginning of November for 12 days, and 6 of that was with doTERRA, and experience Kenya and what doTERRA is doing in Kenya with regards to sourcing and co-impact sourcing. So I am going to share my screen and take you on a little journey tonight. So here we go. So I'm bringing Kenya to you, and it's really exciting to share this with you live here. So bringing Kenya to you, Kenya, I'm going to go to the next slide. These two pictures were actually taken on our trip. The lady on the left is at our distillery and farm in Lunga, and the lovely lady on the right is one of the farmers we met in the Mount Kenya region, and we'll see more on them later. So I want to first lay the groundwork of what we're doing here. So I want to explain to you, or I actually have a video to help explain to you, what is co-impact sourcing, where is Kenya and why this country, what is growing in Kenya. I learned a lot. I didn't know how many things we were sourcing there. It's pretty awesome. You're going to meet our farmers, see the distilleries, learn about the Healing Hands projects and the social impact we're having there, and I'll take you on a little safari. And I'll also share where you can find the doTERRA co-impact sourcing trips for 2019. So let's dive in. So co-impact sourcing is very near and dear to my heart. I remember going to my first convention, and all of a sudden they started showing these videos, and we were like going on these trips around the world in these videos. And I thought, what is all this about? I want to know how to build my business. And I was absolutely shocked at what they shared, shocked in a good way. I was so happy to learn that every drop of oil we use is having a positive impact somewhere in the world. And doTERRA's mission really is to have, in their sourcing, is to have the biggest impact, the most positive impact on the most people possible. So that's why we source from countries like Kenya. More on that to come. So what is co-impact sourcing? Well, it's organizing often unorganized farmers with access to little information. There may be a lot of middlemen involved that are taking a lot of the profits that could otherwise be in the hands of farmers, growers, distillers. So that's the before. After, once doTERRA or their partners get involved, it's helping to organize people into cooperatives, teaching and training them, helping them to build capacity and coordinate services for them so that they have support in the efforts, in their growing efforts. So looking down one level here, they may have limited resources and capacity due to many different factors. They may be harvesting immature plants that are out of season, so they may not have the knowledge as to when the best time is to harvest, best time of day, best time of year, and they have little incentive to produce a higher quality than they're currently producing. So with doTERRA's help and their partners on the ground, there's improved growing and harvesting, so they get higher yields. They have a more sustainable methods of growing. They get optimal oil yields. For example, lavender needs to be harvested only in July. There's a 4-week period, and it has to be harvested on a sunny day. If it was harvested on a cloudy day, the yields would be much lower. So these are small details that doTERRA's support team can help farmers with and really ensure sustainability. And then at the bottom, there's varying plant and oil quality coming from farmers, and they are subjected to volatile market pricing. So why one year it might be good, the next year low. So with doTERRA, with these cooperative efforts, it results in a consistently higher quality oil, and growers are able to receive fair and predictable pricing from a long-term partner. So these growers can have partnerships of years, so they can feel confident in knowing that the work they do, they'll continue to be compensated, so they can make plans for the future, and they can feel comfortable knowing they won't be subjected to these high market variations. And that's why doTERRA is really, really careful about how many farmers they partner with. They don't want to overextend themselves. There can be huge demand to partner with doTERRA now in areas where they start getting comfortable and realizing the benefits of partnering with doTERRA, like in Kenya. But doTERRA is careful to find enough farmers to partner with to meet demand, but they don't want to overextend and then have to have any volatility. So it's a really careful balancing act to enable support of as many people in a positive way. So we're going to jump to a video, and I am hoping that you can see this. I'm going to make sure Oh, we're going to pause that. Just going to stop my share and restart it to make sure that you are seeing that video. You should be able to now. So I want doTERRA to introduce co-impact sourcing to you.
We knew that we would have to reach around the world at some point and tap into the global supply of essential oils. And we also assumed that we would increase that as well. In fact, we were able to do it with this co-impact sourcing model, which is beautiful.
2/3 of the countries that we source our oils from are considered developing countries. So we now have an opportunity to truly to provide sustainable income for those people who are growing, harvesting, and distilling these beautiful oils for our country.
What we're doing through these initiatives are, first, job creation in rural areas where we can have a big impact. Two, working through long-term sourcing contracts and agreements with our partners. Three, helping the formation and organization of cooperatives, which share collective benefits among the harvesters and the growers themselves. Fourth, fair and on-time payments, and even profit-sharing programs that the distillers offer to the growers and harvesters. Fifth, through linking community-based and social impact projects funded through our Healing Hands Foundation.
For them to get the water, they had to walk at least an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours, okay, back and forth. Today we can say that it's a special day because water has been flowing since midday today with the help of doTERRA, of course, and Healing Hands. Okay, we put it together, and that's how today everybody is happy. On either side, it's like a win-win-win situation.
Sometimes it's schools that they're in need of, sometimes it's water systems, sometimes it's medical clinics, medical supplies, whatever it might be. You can change the lives of these people who have so little. That's how you can actually impact the economy.
Which has the same values, the same philosophy. doTERRA's vision is to source sustainable oils and to create co-impact at the source to improve growers' livelihoods. So we are perfectly aligned in what we want to do. So that's why we signed an exclusive partnership with doTERRA on the aromatherapy business.
We are now working with more than 6,000 families in the cardamom sector, and the idea is to really improve the livelihoods of that family. I get the importance of getting back to my country and help the people in my country.
Oftentimes they think that their life will always remain the same. And for someone to be able to really come in and be able to care about them and care about their family and to give them a sense of pride for the work that they do, to know that it matters. It's amazing to see the lights go on and for them to truly have pride in their heart and know that they're doing something. We are so committed to co-impact sourcing because this is a way we really see that we can make a difference in the world, in these countries, have more than means of help, have more than means of support.
Not only, of course, is meeting the needs where we're able to obtain the high quality essential oil that we must have, but also just the ability that it gives us to give back, help so many people, provide employment for so many people. That's
So we're going to head back over here. Hope you enjoyed the video. I thought doTERRA can really take us on a journey so that you can see all the different facets that come into play with co-impact sourcing, and how it isn't just one thing. It could be, as they said, building schools, medical centers. When I went to Bulgaria, I got to see the new bathroom facilities at an orphanage that they had put in to support the needs that they had. And it's always about the needs of the community rather than what doTERRA or what we think they need. It's working with the community to meet the needs that they've identified that would help them rise up. So we're going to move along to the next slide. This is just some little fun facts. So name the 5 countries that border Kenya. On what date did Kenya gain independence from Britain? How long can a hippo stay underwater? What is the major predator of the rhino? And what tiny cat did I see while on safari that was once also loose in Vancouver? So if you write your answers down, I will share the answers at the very end. So this is just to get you kind of thinking about Kenya, because it's somewhere that, you know, I hadn't ever thought I would go. I didn't know a lot about it. And when I found out I was going, I had to do some research. Where in Africa is Kenya? What is going on there? So these are some things that I learned. I didn't know about the British influence. So these are some answers I will share later on, but just a little fun there for you. I'll move myself again. So why Kenya? So doTERRA, Emily mentioned in the videos, it's really looking to see where they can have the greatest impact in the world. And in Kenya, it was identified that 41% of their land is used for agriculture. So it is an agriculture-rich area. The soil is very rich, nutrient-rich there. The government is stable. That's really important. doTERRA is going into a country, ideally to have a stable government so that it's possible to work within that economy. And in the Kwale County, which is southern coast of Kenya, which is where we went, 7 out of 10 people live below the poverty line. And there's roughly 18 million people that are living on less than $1.25 a day, which is really shocking. Considering where I live, minimum wage is $12.65 an hour. So that would mean a family is living on less than that in Kenya. So it's a blend of small scale farmers in addition to some commercial farming results in a supply chain that delivers the required product volume while also enabling co-impact sourcing initiatives to really flourish. So I'll give an example. Tea tree is sourced from Kenya as well as Australia. So in Australia, it's coming from a commercial farming operation. Very different. It's all done in a mechanized way that us in first world countries are used to seeing. You know, when we go for a drive, and on the highway where I live to go to the ferry, you see commercial growing operations, very neat rows. You see machinery for harvesting, for watering. And so doTERRA sources from some commercial farms, and that would be the tea tree in Australia in this example. But now with the global demand growing for our products, and also the desire to help more people in the world and to diversify our supply chain. So if something happened in one area, you know, we're sourcing from different parts of the world. doTERRA saw the opportunity to source from Kenya. And why Kenya? I was really lucky to meet Campbell, who is an Australian who brought tea tree to Australia, specifically to Kenya 15 years ago. They started in Zimbabwe, but had to leave there when there was some political instability, and they moved on to Kenya. Kenya is the ideal environment to grow tea tree, and it's very robust. It's very easy for the farmers there to grow who may have little experience. They'd have no experience with that crop, but it is good in lots of rain, drought. It's very, very resilient and easy to grow. And they're actually finding it grows in many cases even better than back home in Australia, Campbell shared. So it's just a way that doTERRA can do more good in the world and also to diversify the supply chain so that we always have a stable source. So growing in Kenya, what do we get from Kenya? Now, when I got selected for this co-impact sourcing trip, I knew pink pepper was from Kenya, and that's one of our new oils, but I thought there's got to be more going on in Kenya than that. And I had a feeling that, you know, we wouldn't be going that far in the world if they had just started sourcing pink pepper there. So there are a lot of oils sourced from there, and I have some of them here to show you. I may have left one on my table. So we've got eucalyptus, Citriodora, and that is an absolutely beautiful eucalyptus. It's not the one that you would have purchased from doTERRA. It's one that's used in a couple blends. It's in TerraShield and one other blend that is slipping my mind at the moment. It's a very citrusy eucalyptus. I love it because I love citruses. We also source Melaleuca, also known as tea tree that I was sharing. Cypress. We had the good fortune of seeing some cypress that was about to be distilled. Geranium, that's a newly sourced oil from the area, and farmers are clamoring to get that in the ground on their farms because it is a very profitable plant to grow. Pink pepper, that's mainly, I guess, wild sourced. It's not planted in farms as geranium and tea tree. Oregano is another one that I should have put on the list. Oregano also is sourced from Kenya, and we saw that in several farmers' yards. And the pink pepper, though, comes from large trees, very, very large trees that are used for shade or for windbreak. So they may be on public or private land. They're not typically planted for harvesting. So there's a really big opportunity to utilize these trees that had not been fully utilized, harvested for the use in essential oils. And Kenya is not an area that was typically a source for essential oils. doTERRA has really gone in there as a pioneer and done so that these communities can rise up and have these economic opportunities that otherwise do not exist. doTERRA also sources some carriers that you may have seen in some products. The pomegranate seed oil. I actually am lucky enough to have a bottle of just pomegranate seed oil. This is not available for sale, but they sent us home with one. The pomegranate seed oil you can get in the Yarrow Palm blend. That blend, you can actually get that next month, starting in December. Avocado oil is used in the new body mist. Where did mine go? I used to have it, I think it went upstairs to my bathroom finally. The passion fruit seed oil is also used in the beautiful body mist. Sunflower seed oil is also used in body mist. And some of these oils are also used in the Onyx Balance bath soap, the bar. And then they're also trialing some oils. So ylang ylang, I believe I have a picture coming up. Ylang ylang is being trialed at the farm that we visited. Ginger as well, cinnamon, clove, and some vetiver. So there's a lot going on there. And this, again, is to help diversify. We have a great source of ginger from Madagascar. But again, demand is growing. We use ginger in the Digest Zen blend. We also sell the oil individually. So it's really important that that doTERRA keep ahead of sourcing so that we can have these diverse sources so we can meet all of everyone's needs and also have a big impact in the world. So I'm just going to move myself down here for a moment. So I just wanted to show you a little bit of the team. Some of them, definitely one of them you would have seen in the Kenya Rising video. I guess a few of them are in there actually. So there's Daniel on the left. That's with my friends, the Gilmans. And then they've got field officers. I'll tell you more about the field officers soon and what their role is in this model. And then James Kigo, he's in the Mount Kenya region, and you would have seen him in the Kenya Rising video if you had a chance to watch that. So farming, I'm going to move so I can see this. So I want to give you the highlights. So again, we want to grow the best and help the most. And Corey Lindley, Chief Financial Officer of doTERRA and one of the owners and founders, that's his summation of why co-impact sourcing. So 85% of the farmland in Kenya is farmed by locals, and the plots are less than 5 acres each on average, so quite small. The farms we saw were definitely less than 5 acres. I would say they were less than 2. doTERRA is working with over 1,700 farmers. It's approaching 2,000 and looking to work with over 5,000 farmers in Kenya by 2020. So the field officers you saw in the previous slide work with the main distillery or farm. If doTERRA has a farm, we went to one farm where they're trialing. And so they work with the distillery or the farm that doTERRA and Fair Oils, who they are partnered with, that's their partner on the ground there. The field officers are trained and they actually go out to the farmers. So each farmer has their own field officer assigned to them. And what they do is they help the farmers to get educated on growing these plants. They have never grown tea tree or oregano or geranium. And so doTERRA provides the expertise, the education, so that these farmers can learn exactly how to do this. And really, the focus is the farmer is there to really love on the plants and help them grow to their optimal levels so they can have the highest yields and the farmers can get compensated the most for what they're doing. So doTERRA really helps provide that support. So the field workers will go out and help, the field officers will go out and help these farmers to know, when to plant cover crop. They'll even provide the cover crop in between crops. They will help them to know how to mulch so that the moisture can be retained in the soil if that's a concern in the area. They will teach them when the best time to harvest is. As I was saying, lavender, which comes from Bulgaria, it has to be harvested at a certain time. And other crops are the same, where there's a very specific window of time, months of the year, time of day that's very imperative. doTERRA will also often help with the harvesting, and they will, in Kenya, they come to the farms and pick up, they will weigh the crops that are harvested on site. The field officers have their phone. They will input the weight of the yield, and then the farmers will be compensated within 24 hours. So it's very efficient. The farmers are compensated in a very timely manner, and the interest in working with doTERRA has grown exponentially. As you can imagine, when this initiative was first launched, the farmers were a little bit hesitant. The field officers are all Kenyan, and I asked them, I said, well, how did it go when you first approached them? And it was sort of like when we get started with our doTERRA business. People were a little bit skeptical, and they wanted to know who sent them. So they had to educate them on doTERRA and what doTERRA was all about. And of course, there were some early adopters, and we met, you'll see in my future slides, a lady who was one of the first to plant tea tree and partner with doTERRA and Fair Oils. And some other neighbors and friends were a little bit worried. So they kind of sat back and watched to see what would happen. And the ladies I met will share with you sort of what they did with their first paycheck from doTERRA. But now many, many, many of the family, the neighbors, the friends, they want to grow for doTERRA as well, now that they've seen how this works and how it benefits the community and the farmers as well. So doTERRA provides a guaranteed market. So if the farmer grows those crops, doTERRA will buy it, and again, pays them within 24 hours. And they're also working on a project to provide legal land ownership for the farmers in the future, because there are some farmers, many people in Kenya, that are essentially squatters. They're living on land that they don't own. So doTERRA wants to work with farmers that own their land, and in some cases, they have found farmers that do not own their land. So they are working on having purchasing land that then the farmers can lease at a very low cost, and then sort of be using the money they make to make small payments and then enable them to have land ownership in a really fair and easy way that doesn't make it a burden on them, so that they are getting income that they can provide to meet their family's needs for schooling, for food and other medical needs they may have. So one other thing I want to add is that the farmers that we're partnering with, many of them have never had a cash crop in Kenya. So they were subsistence farmers. They were growing simply to feed their families. And these farmers live in very, very rural communities. I thought I lived in a rural community my last year in Hawaii. I had a car though. And I spoke to Kigo and asked, how many of these farmers have vehicles? Because doTERRA does, as I said, go to the farmers to collect the harvest and take it back to the distillery. And I wondered, could a farmer get that to doTERRA? And he said, no, only about 2 of all of the farmers that they work with have vehicles. So, and they're living in very, very rural communities. So we were fortunate to visit 2 distillation facilities. This is the one in the Lunga Lunga area. This is a very, very rural community. The drive there took us about an hour or more along a road that I'm hard pressed to even call it a road. They said if it was raining, we would not have been able to go to the distillery at all. The off-roading that I've done in Canada, those off-roading roads are more road-like than we were driving down. It was very bumpy, twisty, turny, and you didn't see any cars. There was no driveways in these small homes that we were passing on the way to the distillery. So very, very rural. And in this area, there were no shops. It was just small shack-like buildings. So here in the image, you can see where they are using the fire there. So something else I want to share that I hadn't really intended to, but this just inspired that, is the sustainability of the distillation facility. So they do not have electricity at any of these distillation facilities in Kenya. There's no natural gas, there's no diesel, so they don't have any inputs for power. So they have this, they can generate power themselves, and rather than bringing wood in and creating, having to be adding to the carbon footprint, they are using biomass that comes from the crops they're growing to distill. So it's really, they are so careful with the energy use and how it can be recycled. They even recycle energy from the boiler here to the excess heat that comes off, goes to a fan that then will cool dry out the biomass that had previously been distilled, so it can be made into pellets or bricks that can then be used to feed this boiler so that it can then help with the distillation process. So it's really meticulously done. And the sustainability piece, the environmental impact is really negligible because they're not having to tap into electricity that's coming from another source. They're able to create all the energy they need on site and really utilize it to its maximum potential and conserve. So all of the loops, it's all these closed loops, and they described it far better than I am right now. But just know that the environmental impact is minuscule because of the way all the distillation is powered by the biofuel that's created from the product that's been distilled. So pretty amazing there. So here you can see on the top right, you can see the oil and water, the oil that's coming out from the distillation. The bottom left, that's cypress. And then you can see the cypress on the right has been loaded into the still that will then be dropped. That's a big basket that will be dropped into the still. So really interesting. So here, I want to show you a little bit around the farm and distillation facility. So here you're going to see the ladies in their beautiful outfits. They absolutely looked wonderful. Here they are in the greenhouse, and this here that you see is the eucalyptus seedlings. So the other thing that doTERRA provides for all the growers is the seedlings. So they're providing geranium seedlings, they're providing the tea tree seedlings, all of the plants, they are providing those seedlings to the growers at no cost. Now at the bottom left, you'll see two ladies that are mulching the tea tree. So it's really important that they mulch them so that the rain that is watering them can then be, we can conserve that moisture in the ground with some simple mulching techniques. The lady in the middle here that you see, I was really excited to see this process. This is the first harvest of tea tree. So tea tree, when it is being harvested, does not normally look like this, the tea tree that they're distilling. This is the first harvest. So it's allowed to grow up like a tree with a trunk, and then it's lopped off just about a foot from the ground. And then all the new growth will just be less dense and bushy. So when they cut it for future distillation, they can distill the whole plant. But in this first distillation, they have to take down this, they can't distill the trunk, and that's what the lady's just breaking this, and they will then cut it off near the ground. Top right, you can see the men weighing the yield. And again, this is then how they could calculate what the farmer would be paid. This is actually at the Fair Oils and doTERRA farm here, but they're just showing us how this works. And so they are weighing it so they can also have records at the farm of the output. And then here is Rob and I at the bottom. This is at one of their test fields. So this is where they're testing the crops. And this was a geranium field that we were able to check out some of the crop. And we're also holding a little bit of vetiver that was dug up while we were there, so we could experience some vetiver fresh out of the ground. That was pretty exciting. So after our morning exploring the distillery and the farm and learning all about what we are sourcing from this area, we had an opportunity to participate in a service project at the Mwomos Primary School. And here, the school, doTERRA has been a huge supporter of the school. And when we were there, the project we were working on was new desks that have been donated by the Healing Hands Foundation. And we worked with the children to sand them and to stain them. So you can see there's Rob and I doing that. Bottom left, you'll see the parents and small children that are not yet in school. They had a little assembly when we got there. There was some dancing, some singing, and some teachers and the head of school spoke, and some of the students. And then at the top left, I don't know if I can move myself, there is a family. And the very bottom middle, I put that picture there of all the cows just to show you how rural the area is. The traffic on the road is not other vehicles, it's farm animals. So you can just see how rural, and the road is really not much of a road at all, quite bumpy and not used to any traffic. So the children, they were very welcoming. They were very curious about us. And of course, they knew about Healing Hands and doTERRA because doTERRA had built several of the classrooms there. They had built constructed 12 new latrines, and there's more projects coming up at the school. There's also another school in the area. The two schools that doTERRA and Healing Hands work with in the area, most of the children of all of the people that work at the distillery and surrounding farms, their children go to these schools. And so schools in Kenya are paid. So parents need to have income to pay for their children to go to school. So it's made a huge difference having this distillery and these farms in this area so that the parents have income that they otherwise wouldn't have, and their children can go to school. So we moved on, and we actually flew to a different area, to the Mount Kenya area. So the other area that we were first in, the Lunga Lunga area, very hot, closer to sea level, very steamy. Mount Kenya is up at, I believe, 6,500 feet, but we are at the equator, so it was still warm, but you can tell by our clothes a little bit cooler. And this is an area where they had cypress and pink pepper there, you can see in the picture. And there's the distillation facility. Both distillation facilities we went to were actually under expansion. So we got to see the original, where they each had one still for distilling. That's those big silver kind of canister looking things. And both of them were under expansion. That was actually going to be finished the week after we were there. Things always take a little more time than they think. And so they're both expanding their capacity in a big way, which is very exciting, which means we can partner with more farmers and have more people in the operations at the distillery. So at the top right there, that is Cyprus. And at the bottom right, that's our group. We broke into small groups to go visit the farmers. I think it was a lot easier because their farms are not big and also not too overwhelming for the farmers. We went in groups of about 6 or 7. So here we are on our little journey. The very top middle, that is me with a pink pepper tree. We were very curious about the pink pepper trees, and we were very lucky to be with Kigo, and he pulled over on our journey to go meet the farmers and showed us a pink pepper tree. So that was exciting to see those. And again, those are just on the side of the road. They're in farmers' fields, again, not intended to, in the past, to be harvested. They were for shade or windbreak. On the left was the lovely farmer that we met. She and her mother both work the farm. We met the children, and then they scattered. They were quite kind of nervous of what was going on. And so here we got a picture of her very hard-working hands that bring us these amazing, beautiful crops. And it was really interesting. It was the very first time she'd ever seen the finished product. So we were able to share what tea tree smells like, what it feels like, and show her the final product. And so at that farm, there was tea tree grown and oregano. The family was also growing potatoes. They had a cow, they had a calf, and they had some other crops. And when I say farm, I was thinking like a North American farm, like again, what you see out in the country here, very straight rows, and there it's very different. It's very lush. It was very again near sea level and near the equator, so you can imagine there's banana trees all around and palm trees, and they were in plots, of course, the plants, but it's like going to someone's home, and they are growing the tea tree and oregano and the geranium right in their yards. Oh, rosemary is another one I learned they're growing there as well. So it was so interesting to go, because really when we went to their farms, we were going to their homes. And so they were very welcoming. I think a little bit unsure. This particular woman was a little bit unsure when we got there. She warmed up, as you can tell by her warm smile at the end, because it was the first time she'd had a group come to their farm before. So it was really wonderful to see, and it brings a whole new meaning when I open my tea tree and use it to think that it's possibly coming from a very, very small farm in Kenya and having a huge impact on the family. So the lady that you see at the top left and right, when they got their first check from doTERRA, from their first harvest, they chose to install electricity in their home for the first time ever. So it was the first time they'd ever had electricity in their home, if you can imagine. The lady we met at the bottom, that's one of her grandchildren. They're holding the shirt in front of, and that's our group with Kigo and Victoria in the group photo. Victoria's on the right, and she is the field officer that works with the 2 farms we visited. Now, the lady at the bottom in the beautiful bright dress, she was one of the first farmers. I mentioned there were some early adopters, one of the first farmers to partner with doTERRA. So she has had a harvest of tea tree many times over already. She renovated her small home with her first check. So she's been able to make a really big impact in the quality of her home for her family. She grows geranium, tea tree, and geranium is a new crop that she just added to her farm, and she does oregano and tea tree as well. So Victoria shared the goal is that they really want to have these farmers making at least $1,000 a year, if not more, but that's like kind of the baseline goal that they have to be able to really help these farmers to rise up, and so that they have the means to, feed their children, send them to school, and really be able to up-level if they want to do some renovations on their home or install electricity. They have the means to do that. In the middle at the bottom, that was back at the distillery with the cypress. That's Tim. You would have seen him in the video. He is the head of global sourcing, and it was wonderful to have him on the trip. He is so knowledgeable and so accessible, willing to talk to. He would talk for hours, and I was lucky to also be able to have him on our Bulgaria trip in the summer. Had lunch with him, and he was just so willing to speak and answer questions and talk about sourcing, and it's definitely his passion, and it's wonderful to see that the staff that are employed by doTERRA are as passionate as we are as wellness advocates about what they do, and work tirelessly to get the oils for us, but also to make a huge positive impact in the communities we source from. And at the bottom right, that was the wonderful woman that showed us around her farm, and that's one of our trip mates, Jada, and she shared with her geranium. We actually had her smell oregano, geranium, and tea tree. She preferred geranium, so Jada gave her some of the geranium that she had so she could experience that and have that, because it's not something they could buy there, even though they're the ones sourcing and creating this beautiful product to support our bodies. So I want to give you a little rundown about the Healing Hands Foundation projects that are happening in Kenya just in the last couple of years. So the Kwego Primary School, there was a construction of additional classrooms and restroom facilities. That school I did not go to, but my friends did. The week after I was there, there was 2 Kenya trips so that more people can go. We went to the Wamosi Primary School, and there was a construction of a school library. I forgot to mention earlier, a water storage. We got to see the huge water storage tank. They had no water previously at the school. A staff room, restrooms, teacher living quarters, and a student veranda, and scholarship support. We did meet a couple students that had scholarship support as well. They're also working on creating a boarding school there, because many children have to travel so far to get to school that they're either missing days of school because of the distance they live, or they're missing part of the school day, and they're not able to get their homework done because by the time they get home, it's so late. So they're really working the school is very keen to work on creating a boarding situation so that kids can get the full education that they desire. And then there's also a kindergarten school that doTERRA helped the construction of a new facility. The Moena River Bridge, I'll show a picture shortly. There's a river crossing that was difficult to cross, and doTERRA created this bridge for the community school children, and even cows. They take cows across this bridge, and so it's been really important in the community to have this access. And there's also crocodiles in the area, so it is important to have a safe passage over the bridge, over the river. doTERRA built a community center way in Lunga Lunga where we went. I set it down that really long dirt road. They built a community center, nothing like it in the area for a place for people to gather, because there's no businesses in the area. There's, there's nothing. They're way out in the country. So there's nowhere for people to gather together. So this community center was built, and anyone can book it and use it for community gatherings. doTERRA holds farmer trainings there, and others in the community use it for events. The TICAH is an Indigenous culture and health training that has reached 2,000 school children. The Columbus Conservation is an education and reforestation of Indigenous trees project. The Wamosi Water Point is a community borehole and water tower. So we did see that when the farm was constructed and the distillery. They were sure to, there was an area, there was I think a well that had been partially used, and they wanted to make sure that people could still access it, and also that it be a really good source of water, so people can come there from this water point that's been constructed. There's also a water maintenance trust fund, so it's ongoing research and maintenance of community water sources. So a lot of good going into this community to really help the people rise up and have their needs met. So the Moena River Bridge on the left, a very simple bridge by our standards, but very impactful for the people to be able to safely cross this river. And again, it is constructed in such a way, I believe they said 12 cows could be on it at once. So very, very, well, I was worried as we all were on there. There's about 40 of us on the bridge for a photo. We thought, is it okay that this many of us are on the bridge? Thinking that it's mainly used by school children, but they said, no, it is constructed that cows can actually travel across. Here's a picture from the Kuegu Primary School. It's a girls' school. And then a picture of the community center. So we went to that community center, and we had the good fortune of the staff that work at the farm and the distillery. The women did a beautiful welcome with dance and song. So after we were on this amazing trip, experiencing where we source the oils, the farms, meeting the distillers and the field workers, we had the option to take a little safari. So here we are on safari in the Masai Mara. And something that I want to share as well is the importance of going to Kenya. It was, I thought one day I'd go to Africa, but after I went to Africa and experienced all that I experienced, meeting the people and seeing how much us going there can make a big impact, tourism is very important. And even going on safari, how important that is for the animals. Because at first you might think, well, how is going safari important for the animals? But going on safari helps to pay for conservation. And so these magnificent animals, elephants and lions, and these areas they're in are protected. And it helps when we go there to contribute to the economy in a really positive way that helps in conservation and that. So I was excited to learn about that as well. Sorry about that. So here we are seeing giraffes and lions, lion cubs. The animal that I saw, that's a very small cat that was once loose in Vancouver, is the serval. So we were pretty excited. It's very rare to spot a serval because they're very small and it's got a mouse in its mouth. A yawning lion. Lions sleep a lot, 20 of 24 hours. Here's a little jackal, a hyena. We were fortunate enough to go on a balloon ride. There's about 20 hippos in the river here, an elephant, these beautiful trees on the savannah. There's a waterbuck, a toppy, and a baby toppy nursing, zebra. And this was the four of us that would spend our days together on safari. Last picture, here we are down at the Tanzania border between Tanzania and Kenya. Here's just a sampling of all the places we stayed. It was quite an adventure as we started at the beach at the top here. We were staying in Diani down in the beach area on the coast. Very, very beautiful accommodations. Then we moved to tent accommodations up in the Mount Kenya region. There is a full bed and bathroom under a tent. One evening up on this roof, we had baboon. That was quite something, a baboon climbing up on the roof. And there's a baby elephant as we went on our little safari there. And then down here is where we went on safari in the savannah in the Masai Mara. This was the entrance of the hotel. The little adobe separate structures, and a beautiful sunset over the Masai Mara. And just a little fun here. This was the day we flew in one day early just to make sure that there were no snags getting to Kenya. And we did a little safari on our own before meeting up with doTERRA. And that involved meeting some baby elephants, giraffes, and going on safari right in the middle of Nairobi. You can go on safari at Nairobi National Park. That was pretty awesome. And you can see the tall buildings behind the giraffe. So this is right in the heart of Nairobi. And the top right, that's the Karen Blitzen home and museum, and she's the author of Out of Africa. So some pretty amazing experiences in Kenya. So I want to share with you where you can find the trips for 2019. So each year, doTERRA offers different trips to different parts of the world where you can go on a trip like this. So going on a trip like this, you're paying to go because it's a co-impact sourcing healing hands trip, and it's a service trip as well. So you have the opportunity to go if selected, and it's a lottery system. That's how I got to go. You enter the lottery. It's $10. It goes to Healing Hands. So everybody that enters the lottery is making a $10 donation to Healing Hands. So it's a win-win whether you go or not. The trips are open to leaders silver and above. So it's a great reason to keep sharing doTERRA and getting to the rank of silver, because then you get the opportunity to enter the lottery. And you get to meet the harvesters, do and be involved with the service projects, see ones that were done in the past. Below, this is all the ones that are coming up. Nepal is coming up in April for US and Canada. Bulgaria will be happening again in the summer. That was a trip I went on this summer. Guatemala will be open to the Latin American market. The Canadians just went. I didn't get to go on that one. And then Kenya is happening again next November. So you're able to enter multiple lotteries specific to your own country. Other regions like Australia, New Zealand, Asia, they have their own trips. And particularly for foreign-speaking countries, they have their own trips. So these are just a sampling of trips that happen around the world. So I'm just going to close here. If you have any questions, please comment on the post where this is shared. I know we had some technical glitches getting here tonight, so not everybody is on live, but we'll be watching the recording, I'm sure. So if you have any questions, please post there. And in just sort of the summation, I just want to share what an amazing experience it is to go on these trips and to bring this information back to you. It was one thing for me to see the co-impact sourcing videos, and I always believed it and speaking to the owners, but to go, I can assure you that what's going on is absolutely amazing. We're having a huge impact. And one thing we did ask when we were at the Lunga Lunga facility, where that picture I took of the lady in the beautiful turquoise dress and she was harvesting the tea tree, they were all very quietly working. There was about 12 people working on harvesting at that point. And we asked the people that were guiding us around the facility, like, do they mind that we're here? How do they feel? Because they were very quiet at their work and, keeping focused. And they said they actually felt very special that we had come, and it made them feel important. So they were really excited in a quiet, reserved way that we had come there to see the work that they do. And we were very thankful to have that opportunity to go there. And so I encourage you to keep using your oils and sharing doTERRA, because by us sharing doTERRA, we're able, with every drop of the oils we use, to impact a community somewhere in the world, whether it be Haiti or Bulgaria or Kenya or Brazil, any number of countries. We are making a positive impact with the sourcing of the oils. It's done sustainably, it's helping people, and it's producing a pure and potent product for our families to use. So thank you so much for being here, coming along to learn about what's going on in Kenya with doTERRA. It's pretty special what is being cultivated there, both in the ground and in the communities, and with the people and the children that are there, that are benefiting from us using simple oils like tea tree, like oregano, rosemary. It's all making a huge difference. Geranium, whichever oil you use from there, you're making a tremendous impact in the lives of people in Kenya. So thank you so much for coming along to learn tonight. If you have any questions, please reach out. If you're watching the replay and this is posted on Facebook, simply comment below. If you got the link through my email, you can always reply with any questions to the email if you've got some questions about this event. So thank you so much for being here tonight. Enjoy the rest of your evening and use your oils. Thanks again. Bye for now.